want to fire everyone, we have to welcome in our guy. And by the way, I mean, he's the only one that showed up over the weekend is Johnny Mack, football in the 20s right here on BYP on a Tuesday. Johnny Mack, how are you?
I'm doing well, Rich. The world needs ditch diggers, is what Alec Baldwin said in The Departed.
Yes.
He also got a great line about being engaged. It's a good thing because it shows you can hold down the job. Then at least you have a little bit of money, and you know what works.
Yes.
So it's a good thing.
Yeah. Hey, listen. I mean, there's no argument from me. That's the game. I don't even want to hear you got to burn the tape. I mean, let's just start with the obvious right now.
You got to burn the tape.
Yeah, I never got that one. So the obvious, let's just start with the head coach. Where are you right now with the head coach? How much blame do you put on the head coach, or is this baptismal by fire? It's a young team with some aging guys in there. The GM really hasn't done a good job over the last several years. You essentially have a rookie quarterback you're dealing with. So you know what? Let's give the head coach a little wiggle room. Where are you on Sirianni?
I mean, I'm still with let's give him a little wiggle room. I'm kind of amazed that people had a rookie head coach and essentially a rookie starting quarterback. Let's throw. You want to burn those 4 games that were designed for Carson Wentz if you want to burn something. So essentially a rookie head coach, a rookie quarterback. And I mean, people weren't expecting growing pains. So, I mean, if you look at the first 6 games, if you're being honest, you expected losses to San Francisco, at Dallas, Tampa Bay, Kansas City, yada, yada. So I don't think it was the record of 2-4 that upset people. It was kind of how the way they were playing. And then, Las Vegas is better than people expected, but you thought that would be a winnable game. So it's not necessarily the loss; it's how they played. And now the really soft part of the schedule starts. So I think if you don't see improvement, then you got to start talking about, okay, this is a disaster. You have the Jets coming up, the Giants, the Washington football team. You got to win some games in there. And you got to show improvement if you're the coaching staff. But, everybody wants everybody fired. They want me fired, Rich. They want you fired. They want Doug Peterson fired. They want Jim Schwartz fired. Right. They want Howie Roseman fired. Now they want Nick Sirianni fired. Now they want Jonathan Gannon fired. I mean, come on. We're talking about 7 games again with a rookie head coach, and you're not expecting growing pains. The worst thing in this league, and all you have to do is look at the AFC North and the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers and the history of the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
The best thing in the NFL is continuity.
Yep.
The worst thing is being constantly overreactive and changing coaches every year or 2 years. That latter gets you into disaster area.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's Jets and the Giants are going through that. For years, Tampa Bay. For years, Cleveland. For years, Jacksonville. And you mentioned a team like Pittsburgh. They had the blessing of having basically 3 head coaches. They've been able to go from quarterback to
1968, by the way.
Right. Wait, which
3
is
head coaches since 1968. Yeah. And when Mike Tomlin goes in the Hall of Fame, and he will go in the Hall of Fame, all 3 of them will be Hall of Fame coaches.
Yeah. No, listen, everything you're saying is 100% accurate. What bothers me is when I have to listen to Fletcher Cox say he doesn't get paid to play screens, right? He says he gets paid to sack the quarterback, which, by the way, the last time I checked, he's only done it once this season. So I'm wondering, is that kind of a damning statement against the DC? I mean, when you really think about it, how much more vocal can this guy be? We get it. You don't like the scheme.
Well, it is and it isn't. And I'll tell you why it isn't. It is for obvious reasons. He's not happy. He doesn't like this defense. That's overt. And Fletcher had said that a couple times, at least intimated it before the game. Now, after the game, you're emotional. You're frustrated. So stuff tends to come out. But, I mean, this is the problem with the veteran players, and Jason Kelsey's sort of the same way on the offensive side, but he's smart enough not to show it, at least in verbal form. He did it in physical form when you saw his frustration kind of boil over. But these guys have had success and major success under the previous coaching staff. They won a Super Bowl. And then you see, I mean, in Fletcher's case, think about it. It's 5 years. He makes 5 Pro Bowls. He wins the Super Bowl. He makes the playoffs 3 times. And then he's used a certain way, and he has that success. And now he's being asked to do something different by a young coach with no reputation. And you can see where that stuff comes into play. So ultimately, look, Fletcher's not going to be here long term. Probably not going to be here next year with the money he makes. And if he's not happy, they're going to go in a different direction. You almost have to start building with younger players who haven't had that success with the other coaching staff, because they're always going to be comping. And they're looking at 2 and 5, and they're saying, well, I played 3 technique, and I made the Pro Bowl 5 straight years. I won a Super Bowl. And why am I playing something different? And that's where you have it. Well, why are you playing something different? Because the coach thinks you have to do something different now at this stage of your career with these players around you, and he's not buying in. And it's tough. You either buy in or you don't.
Sure.
If you don't buy in, you're not going to be here.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what I don't like. When I hear comments like that, and I watch the play on the field, I'm not just talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. I've had to eat that nonsense for the last several years with the Giants. From the Landon Collins to the Beckhams to the Jenkins. When guys start making certain comments and they go public with it, you start to see that the team's pretty much, there's going to be this divide. It's going to be fractured, right? You can get away with it to some extent if you have a guy that's a veteran head coach who knows how to kind of reel them in, right?
Yeah.
But I also believe there is a toxic element to that. And then what happens is, and I remember this for years, Carl Banks used to stay on the Giant broadcast for years when I used to listen to it, and he still does. Around this time, it's sad to say, guys are already they're starting to think about the holidays, and they start to make their quote-unquote business decisions. Do you sense when you watch this product on the field, they're just not good, or do you see guys quitting or guys not buying in, or some of them are just like totally lost and confused because the coaching is not there. The right scheme has not been implemented. How do you account for that?
I think there are certain guys who haven't bought in. I think at the end of the game against the Raiders, you could see guys kind of giving up. I don't know. I mean, I think the effort has been there to this point, probably until the end of that Raiders game. And offensively, of course, they got their garbage time points, which they're becoming famous for.
Right.
But the game was well over by that estimation. I do think when you talk about the veteran players, I mean, even last year, if you go back, you could see this disconnect. It's almost a disconnect of generations, like the young receivers, the Jalen Reagors and the Quez Watkins. They like Jalen Hurts and weren't as enthused with the offense under Carson Wentz and what Doug Peterson was doing. And now you see the old school guys. Fletcher Cox loved Carson Wentz, and he loved Jim Schwartz, who let him do what he wanted to. And the irony of the comment, by the way, it was always great, sort of getting back and tracking screens. So that was such a weird comment on multiple levels. But Jason Kelsey as well, and guys like that. Now, the good news for Nick Sirianni, Jonathan Gannon, there's not many of those guys left. And after this year, there's going to be less of them. And then you start building over with your own guys, your own system, guys who will build in. But the bigger problem from an organizational perspective is this city. And what I mean by that, Rich, they don't want to play cover 2. They don't want to play. If Tony Dungy was here, a Hall of Fame coach who basically invented defense or perfected it, was here, they would hate it just as much. You know what it is. They want to run the football. They want to blitz. Run the football blitz. Run the football blitz. That's what they want to do. And you're bringing in Jonathan Gannon, who's playing cover 2 and being so passive. And They just hate that form of football.
Yep.
And I don't know how you get over that. He's not going to blitz. He's not going to do it.
No.
So, I mean, this is a Jeffrey Lurie decision and a Jeffrey Lurie problem. It's like, well, you know, I back Jeffrey 100% in the fact that you can't listen to these people when it comes to running the football. If you want to win consistently in this league, in the modern NFL, you got to throw the football. That's just the way it is. Defensively, you can go about things a different way, though, because you're not going to win championships on the defensive side of the ball, most likely anyway. So you can go in different directions, different schemes. But overall, the overriding effect is these guys just don't have the personnel. And it doesn't take much to turn things around. And I said this, give me a quarterback and give me two linebackers, and this team is 5-2 instead of 2-5. And that's how quickly.
Yeah.
It's not like you need 15 players.
No.
You just need a couple key players in the right spot.
Yeah, and to your point, look, even defensively, some of the play calling, you know, you give up a 43-yard catch and run, right? A toss there on a 3rd and 13. Nelson's pretty much on an island. I mean, everything you're saying, I wholeheartedly agree with. I do think, though, sometimes when it gets really bad, you do have to make a change. I know people don't want to hear that. So let me ask you this. It goes to the quarterback now, which people might think on the surface, all right, they traded Flacco, who's probably thinking, what do I deserve? I get rid of this bad coaching situation, then I got to go to the Jets. Thank you very much. First, I believe, a 6th-round draft pick. Now you bump up the mustache. I think it's a matter of time. If Hurts continues to struggle, I believe they bench him. And if they do that and start Minshew, is that just we just want you to relax, watch the game a little bit, see how it can slow down for you from our standpoint? You're going to get the reps, no problem, you're still our guy. Or if that happens, is there something more into this? Because you've said it from the get-go. You believe to a man, they don't believe Jalen Hurts is the answer going forward.
No, they certainly don't believe it now. They were crossing their fingers, I think, at the beginning of the season. I don't think a lot of people believed it, but I think there were certain people, starting with Jeffrey Lurie, that were hopeful that he would prove most wrong. And I think now they've sort of come to the conclusion of, okay, this is not what we want. For a number of reasons. One, they don't want to run that offense. Number one, and they just don't think the quarterback throws the football consistently enough with accuracy in his decision making as well, and that's the two most important traits they put on quarterbacks when they're trying to evaluate them. So ultimately, yeah, I do think the trade puts more pressure on Nick Sirianni and puts more pressure on Jalen Hurts to perform in the short term. Long term, yeah, I think you're going to see Gardner Minshew at some point this year, but long term it doesn't matter. I think everybody in that building knows and has come to the conclusion that the future of the Philadelphia Eagles at the game's most important position is not in the building right now. And it's got to come from outside the building, whether that's via trade, which is becoming less and less likely, or the draft. And the draft is all of a sudden looking terrible at the top of it from the quarterback position perspective. So you might be talking about a bridge that goes through 2022, and that's the real discussion. Ultimately, I think Minshew has a better chance to be that 2022 bridge than Hurts, but they'll still be looking for the ultimate answer at the position the entire time. And they might evaluate somebody in the college game, and they say, okay, this guy we think has a chance to be a big star. Well, you know, Rich, that's how it goes in this league. If you don't have a quarterback, you're on that perpetual wheel of fortune looking for the quarterback, and you're constantly doing it, and you're looking for it. And even if you get the guy, look at the 49ers with Trey Lance. You still got 2-3 years where you're waiting for the guy to grow. And the Eagles are in that purgatory right now.
Yeah,
they're in it. They're right in it.
Perfect example is last night, Monday Night Football, right? Seattle loses Russell Wilson, you throw Geno out. Yeah. I mean, granted, look, the Saints have won a couple in a row.
I get a kick out of these teams that start thinking about, well, maybe Russell Wilson has won only. I love the only one Super Bowl.
I mean, come on, man.
Aaron Rodgers only has one.
Say that
Super
to Dan
Bowl.
Marino.
If you have a good quarterback, you hold on to him like grim death, as we go to Seinfeld. I always get a Seinfeld reference. You hold on to him like grim death.
That's right.
Because the other side of the fence is, the Packers fans, I always say, they're the most spoiled fan base in the world because they've had they're approaching 30 consecutive years of Hall of Fame quarterback play.
That's right.
That doesn't happen.
No, and they have 3 Hall of Famers.
Anybody else?
Yeah, 3 Hall of Famers: Starr, Favre, and Rodgers. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm not even going back.
No, I know you're not.
Just Favre and Rodgers is 30 years.
That's crazy.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
They had a little bit of lull between Bart Starr and Brett Favre where they were a disaster.
Yeah.
And they were going through the Don Mikowskis of the world, the Lynn Dickeys of the world.
Yep.
And it was a disaster.
Yeah.
So the real problem is, when you get into the, that I like to call it the Kirk Cousins effect, because that guy is a good quarterback.
I like Kirk Cousins.
You look at his numbers over the last 8 years; they're unbelievable. They are stinking unbelievable.
He's very consistent.
But you also know there's a limitation there, and you're probably not going to get to the finish line. And if you do, everything else has got to be perfect around him. But you're not going to find a better quarterback than that, more likely than not. So, the Packers are the perfect example of this. They should have done everything to make Aaron Rodgers happy. Everything.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
And they should still do it until the day he leaves.
Yeah, well,
just try to change his mind at every single turn.
You got a couple really good teams, right now in the NFL. You got a bunch of teams that are struggling. I said this during the opening monologue. I don't even think this is a reach, but I think the Lions beat them outright. I mean, the Lions are a team.
The Lions have been really competitive.
And they're close.
They lost on a 66-yard field goal.
Yep.
66.
Yeah.
They lost on a 56-yard field goal. Maybe it's 54 the next week. They played the Rams, who look like one of the best teams in football, pretty darn tough.
Yep.
They've been in a lot of games. But at some point, Rich, these types of teams give up. You were just talking about it. At some point, they say, oh, this is just too difficult. They just check out. But it's early enough to where I can see that, they could beat the Eagles, especially at Ford Field.
Well, but here's the thing.
The Eagles are going to have to play well.
Yeah.
They're not going to have Miles Sanders. And, I could see the Lions finally get
the Lions are a hungry team.
I'll say this. They'll probably need a 54-yard field goal from Jake Elliott to win it.
It might not shock me. Look, they're building something. You see with the head coach. I get it. They're 0-7, but as you mentioned, they had the ridiculous comeback against the 49ers. They hung in there until the second half against Green Bay. They lost to the Ravens. All right, Bear lost to the Bears. They could have won that one. They could have beat the Vikings. Cincinnati's playing very well. And then they played arguably one of the best teams in the NFC, pretty much tight, until late in the game. So they're right there. They can sense it. They can feel it. It's right there. And then conversely, you got the Eagles that have no idea what the hell's going on. And you're right. You lose this game to the Lions. I mean, man, you might be...
It's going to get bad.
Oh.
It's going to get bad. Because nobody knows the context of what the Lions have been in more games than the Eagles have been.
Yep.
They just haven't won any. The Eagles got trounced in a lot of these games, and you look at the final score and you say, that's not that bad. Just they've become the kings of garbage time. And, you have a great first drive against the Raiders.
Yep.
You take a 7-0 lead. Then it's 30 unanswered.
That's
the
crazy.
game's over.
Yeah, that's
the
crazy.
game is over.
Yeah.
In the guts of the game, you're awful on both sides of the football. And then people pick up the final game book and they look at the black and white stats and they see, the yardage wasn't that bad. It's because the Raiders had no sense of urgency. You know how it works.
Of course.
You play prevent defense. You let the team. You try to drain the clock. Too many coaches do that in the modern NFL, and they still do it. And you get these numbers that mean nothing. Because if you look at Jalen Hurts' numbers, they don't look bad. They're not great throwing the football, but they don't look bad. And you add in the running numbers, and you say, "Oh, this is a pretty good quarterback." Well, if you watch the games, no, he's not a pretty good quarterback. He's killing this team.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I think Gardner Minshew, and I know we're tight on time. I'm curious, man. I'm a little intrigued by him. He's young. He's got a strong arm. He's athletic. You know, he knows how to overcome adversity playing for some bad teams. I mean, we kind of know that. He's a tough kid. I don't think he was really given a fair shake. I mean, let's be honest. Look at the direction that they wanted to go. You can't really blame him. So I'm curious to see if for when they go to him, you know, as they say, that'll be one big matzo ball, my friend.
I think it's a matzo ball, but I think it's a small one because ultimately, who cares? Both of them are the end.
I just want to see the flowing mustache out there. I mean, let's be honest.
I do think Nick Sirianni would like to prove something, and that if he can run a more traditional offense, things will look a little bit better.
Right.
And he'll be able to do that under Minshew. And if things start to get really, really bad and people start talking about legitimate, I'm not talking about fans overreacting and getting emotional. People legitimately start talking about, all right, this guy's got to be one and done.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to want to prove himself and say, no, I'm not this bad. I'm just trying to master the deficiencies of the quarterback. You put Minshew in, and you're going to look better.
Yeah.
Because he can do more things as far as the passing game goes.
Yep, fair points. All right, Johnny Mac, good stuff as always. Don't forget, give him a follow on Twitter at JF McMullen, Eagles Insider, SI Now, Philly Voice, Jacob Media, Birds 365 Show, Mac and Mac, Johnny Mac, Jody Mac, and of course right here, Football in the 20s, every Tuesday at 4:20. Appreciate you, pal.
All right, thanks, Rich.
All right, you got it. My guy, Johnny Mac, good stuff as always. Quick timeout.